To me, these are the reasons I personally didn't connect with Dragon Ball GT, but if you did, I totally respect and kinda love that, because to me at least, it emphasizes what is perhaps the most elusive and magical quality of Dragon Ball: its ability to bring joy in the most unlikely of ways to the most unlikely of places. So if you enjoy Dragon Ball GT, that's awesome.
And I hope this warm comment by Totally Not Mark about Dragon Ball GT sets the atmosphere for my video today. So a shout out to Totally Not Mark and his efforts. Go and check out his channel for a ton of anime and manga content. I want to make one thing clear. I am not making this video to disagree with his opinions and experiences of Dragon Ball GT, and as proof of this, here's Mark's take on Baby Vegeta's design.
I sincerely thought Baby Vegeta's design looked much more intimidating before this power absorption, however. This is the start of a trend, unfortunately. As Baby gets stronger, his appearance goes from looking like an intimidating, infected version of Vegeta to something that's far less interesting in terms of design and are overly complex, and definitely something that takes away from the action for me.
And I don't care what he thinks about that, as that's his opinion and preference. It's not my place to judge someone's taste buds, even though I absolutely love all of the baby form designs myself. If you managed to watch my video through today, I hope I can get your thoughts in the comments as well, and hit the like if you're a fan of Dragon Ball GT. I'd like to keep this a civil Dragon Ball discussion at the end of the day, not drama. We should all be mature enough to agree or disagree on something without getting personal. 70% of Mark's review is mostly recapping the story of GT, whilst acknowledging a number of unappreciated good aspects of GT that many fans overlook. And to be honest, I really respect Mark for pointing out these underrated moments, which are actually some of my favourite moments as well. Moments such as the connection between Hercule and Boo, and also the Planet Rudee's episode in the Black Star Saga that focuses on Pan and Gil. Mark saw the same passion in GT as the ones who love it like you and me, but I would like to respectfully respond to his GT review video. I want to respond specifically to the areas in his video that are factually incorrect in regards to the story, characters and lore, as I feel the parts that he didn't understand, didn't have knowledge of, or even overcomplicated hurt his complete experience of the show to the point it made the other 30% of his review sound like a hit piece, and I don't think that was his intention. It's a common thing in all Dragon Ball series and anime in general. If you don't understand something, you can gain a negative experience. Does Dragon Ball GT deserve criticism? Of course it does, like every other series, but I feel some of the stuff that's criticized in GT, or even hated upon, is done with a bias at times and a lack of understanding. I've watched Dragon Ball GT 10 plus times. Give me a break, it's only 64 episodes. There's a reason why I love Dragon Ball GT, it's not by accident, I can assure you. The same with many others. But I've been able to notice things through my time watching that many others haven't, especially those who just breeze through it once, and the version they watched is the Funimation dub. But even with the original version, in Japanese, Dragon Ball GT isn't great. It's enjoyable, it's fine. Some say great ideas, bad execution, but I say great ideas, decent execution, mostly. For quality, 6.5 to 7 out of 10 for the original version, whereas the Funimation dub for me is about a 5.5. My personal enjoyment, however, for Dragon Ball GT is around an 8.5 out of 10. I'm a GT fanboy, but I'm an honest GT fanboy. The parts of his video that I don't respond to, consider it a fact that I agreed with him for the most part, even including the episodes I highly dislike such as Zunama and the Lord Lude mini-arc. But the parts I do respond to, I will give you as much context as possible so it doesn't come across as cheap shots. And while I respond to Totally Not Mark, I will also give you guys my Dragon Ball GT review in the process. And similar to what Mark said, but going in the other direction, if you still don't enjoy GT after this video, that's fine, and I respect your opinion.
When the original series ended way back when I was a kid, like many others my age, I quickly shifted to Dragon Ball GT thinking it would be more of what I loved about Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z had focused largely on magic and sci-fi elements, and to suddenly switch to exclusively adventure targeted towards children felt out of place.
This is one of the biggest reasons why some already set themselves up for disappointment, because Dragon Ball GT wanted to pay respect to an adventure-style story, and later merged with the action-packed Z-style episodes. But at this point, the majority of the die-hard fan base weren't young kids anymore, they were, well, teenagers at least, wanting boom boom bang bang Super Saiyan Duper Saiyan bargain sales. So going back to an adventure style wasn't a problem with Dragon Ball GT in its own right as a series, but the pacing of an adventure style Dragon Ball Hunt didn't merge with the majority of the die-hard fan base, where most came back and wanted more of Dragon Ball Z because they had grown up with that and had grown past those happy-go-lucky adventure episodes back in the day.
I haven't seen Dragon Ball GT in maybe 15 years, but really reinforces the notion that Goku's decision to go off for a decade training Oob was a bit of a waste of time.
What doesn't help is when someone starts watching GT for the first time in 15 years, but with what appears to be the Funimation dub instead of the original. Mark may have watched GT in the Japanese version, but I'm under the impression he experienced the Funimation dialogue, but the Funimation version tends to mess up a lot of the dialogue and themes. I say this as Mark mentions the gap between Z and GT being 10 years, which is the Funimation script, where it's officially 5 years in the original. I've seen some who do this regularly with GT, and in my opinion, it's not the definitive way to watch GT. If you love the Funimation version, I'm happy for you, but many have come back to me and let me know how much the dialogue, voices, and soundtrack changed GT for the better, because taking that away was like taking away GT's soul and how it was made. So I presume Mark's experiences have been affected by that version of GT in which he made his review on.
You know, just sitting there, out in the open. You know, the Dragon Balls that have earth-shattering ramifications if used?
A misconception is that the Dragon Balls are out in the open, which is completely false. Dragon Balls being left in an open museum for the public to see or sitting on a park bench, that's left out in the open. Being in some vault deep within God's temple, high in the sky, which is a sanctuary away from civilization, is not left out in the open. Pilaf gets to the lookout and finds them thanks to the plot, but if you're going to have a story about Black Star Dragon Balls, there's no place on Earth, or in the sky, more secretive than where they are located in the lookout, so this location has never been a problem to me.
Get that the Dragon Balls in this show are a MacGuffin used to make the story work, but they didn't need to be Dragon Balls in this instance.
A show about Dragon Balls, called Dragon Ball, didn't need them to be Dragon Balls? I completely disagree. This is an overcomplication of a straightforward idea that set up and created a Dragon Ball adventure hunt aimed at children. The show gave us the action-packed baby saga to appeal to fans who love that sort of stuff, but the fans who love classic adventure Dragon Ball hunts, or even children new at joining the Dragon Ball world, these absolutely needed to be Dragon Balls to portray what the show is about at the core. The Dragon Balls.
I have no earthly idea how these balls really work.
The Black Star Dragon Balls are simple to understand. They have unlimited power, so to emphasize power, instead of dispersing over Earth, they disperse over the universe. Greater disperse in energy. And this helps the space adventure plot to recover them, with the tension of adding a 1-year time limit before the planet they were wished on explodes because of the negative magic. This is not difficult to understand in a world that has included a pink blob for a bad guy, and a rabbit that turns you into a carrot by touching you.
The rest of the episode is spent reintroducing old characters that we won't see for the rest of the arc. Episode 2 is the first episode where we will see the pace the series will be moving at. Glacial pace.
The purpose of reintroducing characters was to reveal their off-screen progression since End of Z, to show us where they all are now. That was a lovely touch and the slice of life was great, but reintroducing some characters for them not to be relevant for the rest of the arc is a pattern that follows every Dragon Ball arc before this. In fact, this arc had the balls to put different characters in the major spotlight for the arc, and even for the first 2 episodes, Bulma was critical for getting the team ready. But the chill time between the team and other support characters, I absolutely love that because it builds chemistry between these characters. It's not all about the action.
There's no sense of urgency, and the decisions that are made seem excessively juvenile. Additionally, no one seems to be taking this thing with the balls seriously other than Gohan, Chi-Chi, and Bulma.
There is urgency because Bulma begins working on the spaceship straight away, and they can only launch the next day. Nobody can do anything until it's ready, and everyone including Videl are helping prepare it. We cannot expect Vegeta, Goku, or anyone to run around like headless chickens waiting for the spaceship to be ready. These characters have faced danger of untold levels multiple times in the past. They have cool heads for this situation, but more importantly, they are working on a plan straight away.
Goku says that they should use the regular Earth's Dragon Balls to relocate themselves to the Dragon Balls in space, but I say, that's pretty dumb. Why not just wish them to Earth? Did I just make the entire arc pointless?
No, because using the Earth's Dragon Balls would have made the situation far worse in the full picture of GT's message. The negative energy from the relocating multiple times would have spawned multiple Shadow Dragons in the Black Star Saga, and everyone would have been dead. Not only that, the magic of the regular Dragon Balls cannot bring Black Star Dragon Balls to them. It is stated the only way to reverse the magic of turning Goku into a child is a Black Star wish, that the regular Dragon Balls cannot do it, proving regular Dragon Ball magic cannot override Black Star magic. The Dragon Balls always emit dragon energy, even when not used, so the plot is fully supported by regular Shenron's magic not being able to manipulate Black Star Dragon Balls at all. I have no issue with this, and the plot is not ruined. A real plot hole is when nobody thought to use the Dragon Balls to blow up Vegeta and Nappa's space pods as they were approaching Earth. The entire Dragon Ball series has questionable decisions.
In reality, the most capable people should go on this life-threatening trip, not the children as a form of discipline.
This wasn't a form of discipline, and I disagree with this. Trunks is a grown-ass man and Capsule Corp president, and was able to fly the spaceship. Goten was too caught up in his love life to care. That was the joke. Vegeta dragging them through the hallway was comedy to show how he's the veteran, and he's given the next generation their moment to shine. Trunks was extremely important. Goku is the same Goku, and his spot on the team is fully justified. So that's not discipline either. And Pan went on board because she wanted to prove herself. She has a good heart. And the team actually gathered all of the Dragon Balls, so they were capable. It's not a bad team. Obviously, plot renders that obsolete later on, but they still were capable of doing it. This life-threatening trip is no different than having a life-threatening bad guy in Dragon Ball Z and then letting the kids fight that because it would be good for them.
Episode 3 begins and they land on Omega, and all of a sudden it feels like Star Wars. This subplot sees them ignoring the Dragon Balls that they literally just left to retrieve almost immediately after leaving Earth in order to deal with this planet that shakes people down for money.
Again, I disagree. The team are not ignoring the Dragon Balls. They cannot continue the mission because they crash-landed on this planet due to the plot-damaged ship. We don't need to learn anything more about who Goku, Trunks, and Pan are. That's been done in the first 2 episodes.
I noticed that an absurd amount of time has been spent not gathering the Dragon Balls. My issue with this mini-arc within this saga I'm watching can be summed up in one word: pointless. We didn't learn anything new about Pan or Trunks or Goku from this story's inclusion.
The 3-part episode wasn't pointless. It was important for the team of Goku, Trunks, and Pan to form a team bond because it had a storyline to help the team get on the same page and work together, due to the start of the episode where they were at each other's throats. The best team bonding episode is when they hit Planet Rudees later on. That one actually feels tense because they are dying of dehydration. Planet Rudees is probably one of my favorite Dragon Ball GT episodes. However, back to the Planet Omega mini-arc, it had a wholesome story as well, with the team stopping the greedy planet trade and helping out the poor. This is how adventure stories work. Plot, obstacle, overcome. This mini-arc was a combination of setup episodes for the characters and their mission in space. Could it have been 2 episodes instead of 3? Yes, I will be honest. The pacing was problematic there. But I enjoyed this planet more than most planets in this arc.
None of this is important. The only thing you need to know is that they have 1 Dragon Ball now.
A moment ago, I felt like there was a complaint of them not finding the Dragon Balls, but now we get a fun Dragon Ball hunt episode on a giant planet to retrieve a Dragon Ball, and it doesn't feel important now? Honestly, this is the kind of goofy stuff I expect from a Dragon Ball hunt. It's not peak comedy or fun in this episode, it's just fine and lighthearted. I have no problem with the silly obstacles to overcome in this episode, especially after 3 episodes of a more serious setting.
That the best course of action is to dress Trunks like a girl and to offer him as a bride to the monster.
I fully support Mark's views on this. Tsunama was a terrible time, Princess Trunks was pointless and a drawn-out plot that could have been solved in seconds, but to make it worse, it was 2 episodes. Unnecessary, boring, but most of all, irritating.
They begin chasing after the unitards that stole the Dragon Ball until they get lost in a big worm boulder. Don't ask.
Again, nothing unusual to the wackiness of Dragon Ball and Z. Crazy things happen in Dragon Ball in general, and I just go, okay. You know, like fighting worms in Majin Buu's body.
The odds of these unitard guys coincidentally running into our gang as they found a Dragon Ball with the help of a Dragon Radar is astronomical.
Yes, definitely insane odds. I mean, again, plot will do that for you. If you guys kept up with the Granola arc, what are the odds that Granola decided he needs to find the missing 2nd Dragon Ball on planet Cereal? Then that same day, Granola watches TV and it shows a few scientists have just found a mysterious ball. What are the odds?
How does this guy know where the Dragon Balls are now? If he knows where they are, then why were the bad guys searching around the universe for them blind?
Cardinal doesn't know where the Dragon Balls are exactly. This was because Cardinal received some sort of spiritual message from Lude. At this point, he received a Dragon Ball from the Power Brothers, not before. Cardinal knows of the Dragon Balls, which is due to plot, but could be from other things in the story, such as rumors of the Namekian Dragon Balls or Earth Dragon Balls, but luck has it that an additional 7 Black Star Dragon Balls have also joined the mix. This mini-arc sucks anyway, and this all leads to bigger and more important things, but I can definitely see why a few episodes in the Black Star Saga had some fans tune out before watching the rest of GT. It's a shame because some episodes of the Black Star Saga are pretty cool.
Control the gang with dancing for literally minutes and minutes of screen time. This is the worst episode of Dragon Ball I've ever seen.
The Power Brothers are actually unique and their technique actually works. Sure, maybe it took up a few more minutes of screen time than needed, but it did make me laugh at times. And it's not the worst episode of Dragon Ball I've ever seen. I've seen Ribrianne.
The whip is alive and turns into a golden whip warrior thing.
Not unusual wackiness for the Dragon Ball world. Sometimes Mark's delivery on certain things is unnecessary and makes something seem a problem when it's actually not that big of a deal. A hit piece.
This face! I think this is the worst thing I've seen in a very long time.
Completely agree. I disliked Altaki so much, and I'm glad Pan and the others beat him up in the end, and even better when the Chad veteran General Rildo sent him to the next dimension. GT may have acknowledged that it's wrong to be a creep, but they didn't require this Altaki at all. Wasted screen time.
I gotta say this now, there have been like 30 different boss reveals. No, Dr. Mew. This is incomprehensibly bad.
This is not bad though, because this is no different than other arcs in the Dragon Ball franchise, and each enemy in GT's Black Star Saga, not necessarily bosses but enemies, were part of the Machine Mutant chain of command, which is the build-up for Baby. The Black Star and Baby sagas are actually connected like how the Android and Cell sagas are. Episode 1 to 40 of GT is literally one giant Machine Mutant arc. Even the Super 17 saga is technically part of the Machine Mutant arc, because he is half Machine Mutant, thanks to Dr. Mew. So essentially, GT has two giant arcs, Machine Mutant and Shadow Dragons, and they still flow into each other smoothly.
The Para unitards who have all been absorbed by Elude too can conveniently communicate via telepathy to Goku on the outside. I hate this show. I really hate this show. Can I stop now?
Like I said, opinions are opinions, but it honestly feels like Mark's review was part hit piece by these type of deliveries, by criticizing something that isn't even out of the ordinary in the crazy Dragon Ball world. Plot drives everything.
While this was happening, Lude was just standing there, not defending himself, waiting to be attacked by Goku.
Like every other bad guy in Dragon Ball then. Mainly Dragon Ball Z.
The following two remaining episodes are essentially filler or setup for the later antics in the next arc.
There is no anime filler in an anime. You can't be filler to your own type of continuity. It's part of the overall story. Anime is anime, manga is manga.
What a mess.
It's not a mess when you understand more about it. But in all honesty, breezing through it one time after 15 years, you're not going to get the full understanding straight away, especially if you did watch the Funimation version.
The main plotline seemed, to me at least, confused and ultimately it lacked direction.
This is false. The Black Star Saga had direction. Dragon Balls are missing, Earth needs them within 1 year, the team go to find them whilst facing adventure-style obstacles along the way. That is direction. It's not confusing, it's a simple plot-driven space adventure hunt. If you didn't like it, that's absolutely fine, but just because you didn't like it doesn't mean it didn't have direction. I don't like driving for more than 2 hours, but there's still direction.
Dragon Ball didn't just decide to go from lighthearted adventure-centric storytelling to galactic-wide battles with world-ending stakes in literally one episode. It's clear from just watching it that it had no idea of what it wanted to be.
But it did know what it wanted to be, a space adventure, but fans wanted Super Saiyan Bargain Sale galactic battles, which GT transitioned into from episode 16 going into the Baby Saga. This wasn't done in just one episode, it was a slow transition, starting with the Sigma Force, Rildo, building up the seriousness of Baby until we get to episode 27, 28, where things finally go up a gear in the battles.
It's at this point in the story I realize they've only retrieved 2 Dragon Balls and I feel a tremendous sadness descend upon me.
This I agree with, which again comes to a pacing problem with the Black Star Dragon Ball saga. It's episode 14 and they only have 2 Dragon Balls. Originally the saga was meant to go on even longer, but they knew this pace wasn't going to sustain itself. I feel like we had become incredibly used to the Dragon Balls being fast gathered in the later Dragon Ball Z arcs, so when reverting to an adventure style that has 12 episodes of a Dragon Ball hunt, only to have 2 Dragon Balls, it does feel incredibly poor pacing and not set for the times. Now, Namek Saga had a long Dragon Ball hunt, but let's be honest, Namek Saga is god tier, and everyone were on the same battlefield, so things worked. For me, this is why the Lude and Zunama episodes needed to be gone, or simply summarized in a few minutes. Then we would be at episode 8, which would have been far better pacing.
Okay, Dragon Ball GT's first arc was mindless adventure. Additionally, the writing is extremely formulaic and lazy.
In terms of the writing being formulaic and lazy, that I agree with too, but only because of the Dragon Ball hunt mission in itself. Finding Dragon Balls is formulaic, it has to be. Dragon Balls need to be found, go and find them. It is lazy, but that's the formula that drives the mission. What was not lazy was the style of the hunt, changing it to a space hunt, rather than on Earth or one location, using different characters. It went against expectations, which I can respect, even if it wasn't executed to its fullest potential. Do I think the Black Star Saga is a bad execution? Overall, I would say it's mid-execution. The character bonding episodes were fine, but what hurt it was the pacing and boring Zunama and Lude mini-arcs.
The next episode doesn't really offer much. It's essentially a fighting heavy episode following Goku as he dismantles the forces of General Rildo.
They did offer us much. We've had Goku vs Legic, which was a taste of classic Goku in combat situations. Now we have Goku whipping the candy metal asses of the Sigma Force in base form, which reminds us of how awesome Goku is, even if he has become a kid. I want to quickly mention Kid Goku here though, as I feel like every time I ask someone why they didn't like Kid Goku, they don't actually give me a logical reason. They say he regressed, they just dislike him. Now, Goku becoming a kid made him lose instant transmission and stamina for Super Saiyan 3, but other than that, he's the exact same Goku with the same power as officially stated. Adult Goku would have done the exact same things because he's still the same person, just smaller. If you don't like the design, that's fine. I think it's a cool design and fit in for GT, but you can't instant transmission to a Dragon Ball, and there was no need for excessive stamina up until this point. But if your reason was something to do with his power progression, just remember you've got that backwards because his age with the same power he has now opens more opportunities and gives him more years to grow even stronger than he ever could previously.
I'm not sure if I'm a fan personally of this swerve the story attempted to pull off. While it was indeed surprising, it's not surprising because it cleverly concealed the true nature of Trunks and Gil by means of well-structured writing. No, it did so by not giving any clues at all. Aside from Gil giving Pan the Dragon Balls an episode prior, surprises like this work best when it makes the audience say to themselves, oh of course it all makes sense now, even going back to the first episode of this season. This didn't do that for me. It's just a reveal of another piece of information I couldn't have predicted based on what the story demonstrated so far to me.
And that was the whole point. Nobody predicted this swerve would happen because Gil went Dragon Balls deep with the initial betrayal, making it look like a serious problem. If anything was revealed, it wouldn't be a surprise, which was the intention of the writing. This worked this time because it kept the audience out of the loop as much as the characters, so we felt the same surprise they did. For me personally, Mark's criticism of this swerve is unnecessary and is contradicted later on because he says something about this swerve where Baby has control over Trunks.
He didn't activate him until he brought the balls back, which is incredibly smart of him, Baby, and an exceptionally well-delivered swerve by the writers. It makes complete sense from both mechanical and motivational points of view.
The Gil swerve criticism is creating a problem that's not even there, as both that and the Baby swerve don't let the audience know what's going on until it happens with Trunks. So this is why I discount some of Mark's criticisms of the writing, because it feels like as long as it happens in the Baby saga, it's okay, but not the Black Star saga, which feels biased and comes across at times like horde mentality just to hate on GT, and we know every franchise has a horde mentality on something.
The episode ends with Baby revealing that he designed Dr. Mew, which to me honestly sounds like it makes as much sense as performing brain surgery on yourself.
Baby creating his lower ranking machine mutants isn't out of any ordinary Dragon Ball madness. Dr. Gero creating a robot that could rip a Super Saiyan's balls off? Go back and read the original Dragon Ball. The entire Dragon Ball story continues because of a rat.
Additionally, General Rildo isn't defeated, he just sort of becomes irrelevant.
Incorrect. Baby absorbs Rildo's power and combines it to the power he has already acquired from Lud, which is more relevant than Dabura or just being a stepping stone cookie to build up the next villain. Rildo's power serves a purpose, and Baby grows from that. Again, like the other machine mutants, they're all part of a chain of command readying for Baby.
I admire Dragon Ball GT for wanting to, and in many cases successfully achieving, a believable and interesting new character in Pan, but they never, and I mean never, give her anything worthwhile to do except cause problems for Goku and Trunks sometimes.
Another false analysis of Pan. Although Pan has been saved by Goku and Trunks before, that's not all Pan does, and it's a complete lie when fans only choose to mention this. Pan's ideas helped move the plot, Pan saved Goku and Trunks at times, Pan found Black Star Dragon Balls, she helped destroy Lord Lud, Pan helped Goku become Super Saiyan 4, Pan also stepped up to confront Baby alone, which prevented him from killing Super Saiyan 4 Goku when he was weakened, enough time for the others to arrive and heal Goku. She helped clean up the villains from hell, some even more experienced than her. If it wasn't for Pan, Goku would have died against the first Shadow Dragon because Gil wouldn't have been brought along to save Goku from the toxic waste. If it wasn't for Pan, Oceanus Shenron's opening wouldn't have been found out. She's only 10 and never had conflict in those 10 years, except for in GT, and she's been so valuable in that time.
Trunks found himself almost useless as he had to compete for screen time with the likes of Goten, Gohan, and Vegeta. This wouldn't have been an issue had he demonstrated something unique or magnificent in the prior episodes, but he really didn't do all that much, bar one or two things.
You have to remember, Trunks just was a major player in the Black Star Saga. He was the only one who could fly that spaceship and did so for 1 whole year and fixed it. Did this guy get any sleep and saved Goku a number of times? And again, this is only a 64 episode show. The Baby Saga moved much quicker and couldn't focus on Trunks that much. That's what happens in Dragon Ball. It's not a new thing here in GT. I don't agree with Mark's complaint here about Trunks.
Goku already doesn't change, and to surround him with more static character arcs just makes for a much less interesting cast of characters for Goku to bounce off of.
Incorrect. Trunks and Pan changed considerably in the 1 year when they were with Goku. The team itself grew in cohesion, showcasing improvement. When Trunks left, he was a slacker in training and also his job at times. When Trunks returned, he acted like a warrior after fighting alongside Goku that year, and had even more respect for Goku. Pan the same. When she left, she constantly had a problem with Goku due to seeing her grandfather half her size. By the end of the Black Star Saga and towards her crying in front of the Golden Uzaru, her love for Goku grew once again, to the point we could finally see the two be as they were like in the 28th Budokai. Pan was growing as an adventurer. Remember, this series is her first real mission in her life. In the Goku Jr. special, you can truly see how knowledgeable she is, how courageous she is, like a veteran. Now we move on to the Baby Saga, and as you can probably see by the video chapters, there isn't as much to respond to, as Mark had a ton of praise for this saga, which, let's be honest, one of Dragon Ball's best arcs in the franchise. But he did make some comments which I was really surprised to hear, because I didn't think such misinformation would exist about these things.
Compared to pretty much everyone in this series, Gil is outmatched, and he knows that. That's what makes this scene so powerful for me, and I actually got emotional when Baby took him out in the end.
Agreed. Gil is courageous, but he's not the only one outmatched. Baby stomped everyone on his quest. There is no one who could stand up to him or even rival him until Goku gains Super Saiyan 4 in episode 35. And even then, that turns into a brutal battle back and forth. In fact, up until that point in GT, it's not even Goku time. Lord Lude episodes were a team effort and Rildo beat Goku. And Baby outclassed Goku and got away, to the point Goku got stomped again by Baby, so whoever says GT is Goku's time really are watching an entirely different show. Goku only gets the upper hand in GT at about 60% of the way through, unless we count the fight with Legic.
Goku is much more serious in this arc, which I'm honestly really happy about.
Goku was serious in his previous fights. Legic, Rildo, Lude, the Sigma Force, there were goofy moments at times, but he was trying to beat those guys. Goku's not only serious here against Baby, he's got a stressed looking face because he's being overwhelmed by Baby. He knows it's dangerous.
I have an issue with this. Earth acting as a substitute for the moon is weird, and I really don't like it.
This one was unexpected and is straight up misinformation that either this misunderstanding of lore hurt Mark's experience of the show, or he's trying to dislike it on purpose, which I don't think he is. But you should all know by now, as Vegeta explained in the Saiyan saga, Brutes waves, Blutz waves come from the light of the sun reflected by the moon. The Earth was just a substitute for the moon and performs the same. And not only that, how fitting and poetic for it to be the Earth for Goku. But this is a strange way to dislike the Golden Uzaru.
And fires it at Baby, who has no tail. This is a real bad case of wanting the fight to be a certain specific way, but not having the first clue of how to get it there without breaking a number of rules. Which is a shame because it was so consistent before this. Baby begins to transform into a Golden Uzaru.
So consistent? Not at all, because there's always inconsistencies throughout the franchise, and it breaks absolutely no rules because it was a brand new device where the show explained what it was doing. It didn't just project the regular amounts of Brutes waves to Baby Vegeta, it overloaded him with 1,000 times the amount. It needed to be excessive for it to work, which was then explained by the old Kai to be an unhealthy dose that is making Grade 8 Baby break down from the inside, an internal struggle a major side effect. Complaining that a supercharged 1,000 times Brutes waves helps a Saiyan become an Uzaru is unnecessary when you think about how bizarre things are in Dragon Ball, such as a Saiyan tail randomly popping back out in the battlefield back in the day. Just like that, the tail was up their ass the whole time. There's no problem here. It gave us a tense and exciting battle.
However, Bulma, still under Baby's control, fires more Blutz waves at Baby. I didn't like the Earth being used as a Blutz wave source, and Bulma creating a Blutz wave amplifier in minutes was utterly ridiculous.
Do you see what I mean? His review sometimes comes off as a hit piece, which ruins his overall review. I don't need to educate you guys on how intelligent Bulma is. If the plot requires her to make something, It's believable. It's not out of the ordinary for something to be made like that, and she's the most wisest Bulma of all at this point. 5 to 6 years after the end of Z, it's not a problem. She has a whole command center full of technology right there on the battlefield that was built in the time that had passed with Baby in control. Let me ask you this, is redirecting a power source from her technology, or amplifying rays of sun, really the most challenging invention she's ever faced? As an honest Dragon Ball fan, you know that's a cakewalk for someone like her.
Goku blasts off his tail, but I thought he didn't need the tail with the blood swaves.
He doesn't need the tail to become the Uzaru with the excessive brute swaves. When he becomes the Uzaru, a tail spawns due to the supercharged metamorphosis. But the Saiyan tail is still the key, still the secret to sustaining the new transformation. That's why the tail grew back. The 1,000 times brute swaves promoted that growth of the tail. Otherwise, if he didn't need a tail, then one wouldn't pop out if he became an Uzaru. Cutting off the tail for the ape is still the same as turning the ignition off on a really powerful car.
This is honestly a terrible way to keep Vegeta alive while removing Baby from his body. Also, I guess Baby didn't lay eggs inside Vegeta either?
This is not a terrible way to keep him alive, because it worked, and as long as you know how it works, it's a success. Vegeta lives and Baby had to escape or get crushed. It's irrelevant if Baby leaves eggs inside Vegeta, because Baby has no power anymore to deal with Super Saiyan 4 Goku. He had to run, and the eggs eventually get removed thanks to the sacred water. Another unnecessary complaint. Besides, Goku's silence before making the final decision to blast Vegeta's tail off added suspense and a moment of sadness thinking Goku had killed Vegeta, but he didn't. It was a short, powerful scene, and the smile between Goku and Vegeta said it all. These guys are truly great friends. GT gives us a lot of warm moments like this.
One of my biggest gripes with Goku getting turned into a kid was how his character models stunted and negatively impacted all the fights he took part in. Akira Toriyama changed Goku into an adult so that he could make use of his longer limbs as Dragon Ball focused more and more on fighting. Stumpy limbs don't offer much in the way of interesting posing.
This one feels extremely biased and without weighing it up to everything previous in Dragon Ball. Some of the best fights in Dragon Ball history were involving child characters. Kid Goku throughout nearly the whole original Dragon Ball, Kid Gohan from the start of Dragon Ball Z. Goku being a kid combined with his Super Saiyan forms was a breath of fresh air in terms of his design overall. Super Saiyan 3 with a tail on Kid Goku looks amazing, and his Super Saiyan battle with Legic and Rildo was captivating for me because I got to see how Goku would wield his insane power using his child body. When they weren't active, Goku would be training in the spaceship and getting used to his smaller body. It added more interest to his battles for me. Nothing was negatively impacted, it was just different to adult Goku, and more of the same of how things used to be, but with some noticeable changes. And that's how Super Saiyan 4 is even more impactful because it changes up the style in the battles.
It should have ended right after Oob revealed himself to be inside Baby. That was a great swerve and the height of the fight's action for me. The following episode just shows more useless one-sided fighting on the side of Goku and honestly really ruins the fight's memory and atmosphere in the end.
Useless one-sided fighting on the side of Goku. Extremely false analysis there in general that leads to another unnecessary jab at GT for misunderstanding it. The only time throughout this entire series Goku had an edge on Baby was when he initially became Super Saiyan 4, and that lasted for not even one episode. At the end of that episode, Baby becomes an Uzaru, and there was a back and forth tense battle for a number of episodes then. Goku becoming full power Saiyan 4 initially started fighting Baby equal again, but the big table turn was when he absorbed the Super Revenge Death Ball. From there, Goku was unstoppable, and the remaining battle didn't even last for 5 minutes. That was for Goku to finally end Baby. So no, Goku overwhelming Baby in the end did not ruin anything. That would be like me saying Super Saiyan Goku on Namek. Once Goku started overwhelming Frieza towards the end, it became incredibly boring. No, that's... no.
This is actually filler and has nothing to do with the story that follows, so...
Again, this is not filler in GT. This is actually a send-off episode to the Baby Saga events, where Goku and Gohan talk about what happened, and Hercule having his closure with Boo. Anime filler doesn't exist to an anime series. People complain about Garlic Jr. and Other World Tournament being filler or non-canon to Dragon Ball Z, but that's only true when comparing the manga. The manga is not called Dragon Ball Z. That's what the anime is called. The manga is Toriyama's continuity and story, the anime is Toei's, and they do their own thing. The anime series has its own storyline that incorporates those extra stories. As Toriyama said, Dragon Ball, it's the anime and the manga. And although the Super 17 arc doesn't do anything great at all, it's mid at best, but it's also not as bad as some make out. So I will again tackle the misconceptions that a few constantly bring up.
We see Vegeta confronted by Nappa. This I thought was a perfect time for some dialogue between the two Saiyans, giving Vegeta a chance to express all the changes he has undergone since their last parting.
Absolutely not. This is something Vegeta is not obligated to do with Nappa. This complaint sounds like a desire to want Vegeta and Nappa to work things out and shake hands. Can you even imagine? Hey Nappa, hold on. Look, it's been a long time, buddy. Before we go forward, allow me to talk to you about what's happened in my life since the day I killed you. This does not work at all. And here's why. Nappa had shown up to Earth from Hell for the first time in what, 30 plus years? And the first thing he does is destroy parts of the planet and innocent people without hesitation. Showcasing Hell has only kept him horrible or made him worse. Vegeta had nothing to say to Nappa at this point. Seeing him do this to innocent people, Vegeta's grin said it all. You're still the same as you were, a horrible old fool. And this time, you deserve it even more. It was fan service for Vegeta to end Nappa again, because Nappa hasn't changed. No dialogue needed and it wouldn't change a thing. Only waste screen time in this short 6-episode mini arc.
A place beneath the current hell they dwell within, underneath the clouds. At this point, I honestly have no idea what's going on.
And I want to remind you guys of this. Some complain about the Super 17 arc expecting the world from it when it's only 6 episodes, a bridge mini arc setting up the Shadow Dragon saga. It's the Michael Bay of Dragon Ball arcs, just chaos, but quick enough to get through. Don't expect this to have the depth of a 100 episode saga. It's simply a gateway to hell, a dimensional portal, so to speak. Location doesn't matter as long as it connects 2 points in the dimensions. It's not complicated. Check out Buhan and his dimensional tears, only this time it leads to hell.
Because of this lack of information, the tension that I assume they are trying to achieve doesn't exist or have the chance to exist, as I have no idea what the parameters of this realm even are. What's possible here? Why is it that they are immortal in hell? This makes no sense to me. It keeps introducing new aspects of the hell landscape that weren't privy to us prior. Therefore, they don't act as surprises, just conveniences to keep Goku locked down in there.
Which is understandable, but if you know how hell works, this isn't a problem. Villains who are not in hell can be destroyed and go back to Snake Way. Villains who remain in their dimension of hell cannot be killed because that's hell for you. It's not a very nice place, it's meant to represent chaos and mayhem.
A fuse. I don't like this idea personally. This story didn't really convince or sell me on this concept successfully, and I'm really not a fan of the design personally.
Personally, I love Super 17 and his design. I think he deserved way more, but what can you do with 6 episodes, really? The story is fast-paced, way quicker than the Black Star and Baby sagas. The two 17s merge, just like how Cell can put 2 androids inside himself, or Moro can eat OG-73, you know, really goofy Dragon Ball stuff that isn't meant to be dwelled upon too much.
So, Yama can put Piccolo in hell, but not take Goku out? Seems convenient.
GT just expanded more on what it was because they were there at the time. Of course it's convenient, but it's also unpredictable and dangerous. If the hyperbolic time chamber can have altering conditions, then it's not mind-blowing that hell has even worse conditions. It's hell. The dimension is that powerful that Goku cannot use instant transmission to escape hell, as Cell cannot do it either, otherwise he would leave in a heartbeat. King Yama can throw people into hell, but getting them back is another story, like banishing someone into a dangerous world. Sure, you can throw them into the lion's den, but getting them out is either impossible or a great risk. Same principle, but this time, the merging of worlds and negative energy buildup is causing distress in the cosmos and is preventing King Yama from being able to do certain things. That was explained in the story.
What I want to know is, why did Piccolo need to be brought to hell in the first place? Couldn't he have communicated this to Goku and told him to make a connection with him and one of his sons earlier? Surely they are more similar than Piccolo and Dende are.
No, because Goku isn't a Namekian, and Piccolo is using a Namekian technique with Dende, hence why he took his headgear off to perform it.
Brainwashing of the android's angle, and yet it's never explained how this is even possible, or even how Dr. Gero and Dr. Mew found the supplies or parts necessary to create Android 17 in hell. It's just glazed over as if it's some unimportant detail, yet the entire story is built upon it. Also, Super Android 17 has this ability to absorb energy, despite both Android 17 specifically not having that ability at all.
So let's talk about Super 17 having absorption where the regular 17 doesn't. It's a gimmick, just like every other villain having gimmicks in Dragon Ball. The original 17 doesn't have absorption, but Dr. Mew and Gero created a new 17 in Hell, which was a machine mutant. Similar in design, but not exactly the same as regular 17. They planned for the 17s to merge, and knowing that, would have planned an absorption technique to form once Super 17 is created. Remember, Gero and Mew are two of the most intelligent beings that ever lived. They are mad scientists, and together I find it really unnecessary to doubt their ability to create. In order to create a machine mutant, they would need machines or other machine mutants. Hell clearly shows there were machine mutants there. General Rildo went to Hell. He's a machine mutant. He's not the only machine mutant that ever existed. I don't know how Gero and Mew formed a rebellion in Hell, but there are possibilities in Hell for Mew and Gero to get their parts. Dr. Robotnik survived a mushroom planet because of his intellect. The Super 17 arc is just 6 episodes in a cartoon that doesn't explain a lot about the plot, nor did it have the time, which does let it down in terms of depth. The plot just happens, but in Dragon Ball logic, all this unexplained stuff is still possible.
The android is absorbing Goku's blast, and so naturally, because this is how the fight is written, Goku begins firing an enormous and unreasonable number of random ki blasts that are completely out of character for him. Because the android can absorb his ki attacks, when Goku learns this, he acts as if his hands are tied.
Probably the biggest misconception in GT is analyzing the fight completely wrong, so let me break it down. Let's talk about Goku's knowledge of Android 17 at this point. Goku has no knowledge of Android 17 models being energy absorbers. He only knows of the unlimited energy part. Goku could not sense the power of Super 17 growing from absorbing blasts because it's an android. Goku is not firing ki just out of character, and at the beginning it's not Goku being stupid. If you watch the fight, Super 17 is actually extremely fast and keeps flying or moving away from Goku, which would restrict Goku from using punches or kicks, cleverly pushing Goku into firing longer ranged attacks because Goku couldn't catch him even when chasing him down. It's a trap. The only time Goku makes a mistake is when he gambles his 10 times Kamehameha and loses the bet, because only then could he actually see the absorption take place, due to Super 17's increased size. The other time 17 absorbed was concealed incredibly well, where Goku couldn't even see it or 17's smile through the ki blasts. His hands were only tied after the 10 times failed. It was a mistake, yes, but Goku wasn't stupid before this because his options were running low due to how superior Super 17 was in battle and constantly moving away from Goku. Goku even admits he can't do anything if the 10 times wouldn't work, so there's the admission. He couldn't catch him to punch or kick him, nor blast him. Super 17 was just superior, and those who watch it need to accept that. Goku would never have beaten Super 17 alone. The only way to beat him was through a plot-driven Android 18 team attack ending, which exposed Super 17's weakness. One I actually enjoyed, to be honest. GT's arcs may have had slow starts, but they always finished on a high.
The arc is almost exclusively fighting, and the fights have no weight behind them. All of these villains have been defeated, get no dialogue, and are simply there to facilitate numbers to prevent and give trouble to Earth's forces, which we barely see.
The arc is 6 episodes, and everyone gets some screen time in this arc. We do see them, it's just split between them all. Even if it is cleaning up older villains, the older villains did not require any dialogue because the simple story was these guys are invading from Hell to cause as much damage as possible. That's it. They've had their time, they've had their story. Cell and Frieza were respected more by giving them more screen time, because let's be honest, it's Frieza and Cell. But even Goku overwhelming them in ability was to showcase how far Goku had come, and that the days of Cell and Frieza are truly over. They weren't milked in this franchise, but rather used to show the progression of a main character.
The 2 doctors are eliminated by 17, who has no known motivation to us in the story. What does he want? If he wants what Dr. Mew wants, then why did he remove him entirely?
Because Super 17 was half machine mutant by this point and was conflicted. It's so simple to understand. Hell 17 was under complete control by Mew, because he was built with that control in. But Earth 17 still had that rationale, even if he was somehow getting hypnotized. And that was the side of him that was rebelling during the merger, just how Android 18 resisted the control earlier. Even Android 18 almost got through to Super 17, showcasing the good 17 is still in there somehow. It's not the best writing, I would say it's mid for what it is, but there's enough information to get a grasp of what action is going on. Now that we're done with the mid-Super 17 arc, let's finish up on the Shadow Dragon saga.
At this point, I'm sure King Kai is only being used for exposition and literally nothing more.
King Kai has played this role many times in Z.
This, to me at least, wasn't the dragon to start off this search with, but whatever.
The first few dragons are hideous in design. They are not meant to look beautiful, they represent negativity, disgust and energy. The first one, as many know by Hei's Shenron, is purposely designed to look despicable and pathetic so that his sneaky energy technique can be utilized to beat the opponent's slow time.
Pure chance it starts to rain, resulting in him sort of short-circuiting and eventually losing his life. What an awful fight.
If anything, this shows how powerful Rage Shenron is by beating Super Saiyan 4 Goku and only losing because he exploded from overload, going in line with the dragon's design and concept, gluttony. He's fat, disgusting, and continues to grow in power until his own power destroys him.
And they defeat it, and then the town is better. 5 episodes in a row followed this very predictable, boring, tired format, and it really hurt the show for me.
This was Goku's last adventure. They incorporated another Dragon Ball Hunt style adventure for the first few Shadow Dragons as a final nod to the old school Dragon Ball adventures. If you don't like that or the pacing, that's fine, but the intention was to go from light-hearted obstacles and fights into a drastic change of danger when Nova Shenron turned up. Each Shadow Dragon were placed like a video game boss gauntlet. The stronger ones come towards the end. It's another simple adventure idea that's not everyone's liking, but it's only 6 episodes until the difficulty ramps up.
Throw some ki blasts at him or something. Maybe go out of base form? You have options, Goku. And eventually he does, making the last 10 minutes feel like utter filler.
I don't think Mark knows what filler actually means here, but in regards to Nova, Goku did fire ki blasts. The time Goku was being stalked by Nova was building up Nova's scary presence as an intimidating, serious foe. If Nova turned up and he and Goku fought from full power from the first second, it would feel no different from the Super 17 arc's chaotic fighting and lose the build-up tension. So now that Nova is getting a build-up to what he can do as a character, I think this should be appreciated.
Finally, the plot is changing things up, which my sanity is grateful for.
Hit piece.
A machine granting him that ability feels very at odds with what Dragon Ball's philosophy is, and doesn't feel earned to me.
Hey Omega, my name is Vegeta, Prince of All Saiyans. I know that you're here about to destroy my home as well as all of my family, my wife, my kids. But can you wait here? Can you wait here whilst I go and be the real Vegeta? Will you let me go and get my tail pulled out of my ass in some undignified way just like Kakarot? Will you allow me several more years to train so that I can beat you, Omega? Or should my intelligent, beautiful wife blast me with those brute waves so that I can make a stand to you now in the name of everything I stand for as an Earthling with the pride of a Saiyan? Do you see my point here, guys? Not earned. Bulma only helped Vegeta become a regular Uzaru due to the lack of tail. Vegeta completed the next steps of Golden Uzaru and Super Saiyan 4 all by himself because he had already mastered the Uzaru half a century before this very moment. This is earned because in episode 55 it is explained that to wield Super Saiyan 4 you have to be strong enough to become it and wield it. Just being Super Saiyan 4 itself is the solid proof of earning it because of how strong Vegeta has become to wield it. The only thing the Brute Waves did for Vegeta was give him a 10 times power amp. Hell, his Super Saiyan form gives him more than that. Vegeta did the rest. I've seen some people call Vegeta a cheater for Bulma helping him become a regular Uzaru and getting a 10 times amp, but the ones who say this completely wank off Majin Vegeta, closing the gap on Goku, and they jizz all across the screen when Vegeta tells Krillin to blast a hole through him so he can get a cheat Zenkai boost on Namek. GT Vegeta is the best progressed character in Dragon Ball history in my opinion, and Mark seems to be missing the point that everything during this saga is at risk of being lost forever if they don't make a stand now.
Who all get saved by Goku at the last second using instant transmission, despite it being a technique he can't use effectively as a kid. Convenient?
Incorrect. Not convenient. Piccolo helped Goku relearn instant transmission at the end of the baby arc, when Goku ran out of Super Saiyan 4 to save a kid. He made Goku believe in himself once again, and Goku used instant transmission in base form.
Why doesn't Goku just teleport somewhere safe with Vegeta to do it there? I don't know.
Instant transmission can hack any situation since Goku returned from Yardrat. The reason why it's not written to hack the story is so that it doesn't cheapen the story in Z or GT, in order to let a story and its drama play out. Besides, if Goku and Vegeta teleported away and tried to get the fusion done, Omega would have turned straight to their loved ones and killed them, and the whole message of GT's story was to move away from having the Dragon Ball save everyone constantly. The mentalities and themes of everyone were shifting to just fight with what they've got. This is why we didn't get Senzu Beans in GT. This is why healing was written out not to be effective at healing someone as powerful as Super Saiyan 4. By doing this, it creates tension. But again, instant transmission can bust any situation anytime the writer wants, but whether it should be done is a different call.
But little does she know that she can pull another one out of her butt super easy because she did that during the baby saga.
At this point, every support character was weakened, and even if they could fly, they couldn't get the Bulmas, gather another machine, or even make it back another trip to the battlefield in time. But the suspense was building up to Goku's final ascension anyway, which was the direction it had.
There's really no tension for me at this point.
I felt major tension here due to the fact Goku and Vegeta had nothing left. There was nothing they could do except endure the wrath of the final Shadow Dragon, probably one of the most tense moments in GT GT and Dragon Ball.
In base form, Goku is pushing his blast back. Like, what?
From this, I knew Mark does not have any understanding of the writing and themes behind Goku in the final episodes and how Goku had ascended. I'm pretty sure the majority of you guys know what I'm talking about when I mention Goku's change or his changed state, as well as the inspiration and writing behind this ascension. It's all in the interviews, you should check it out. There's a lot to GT that meets the eye, and there is a reason why Goku begins to take on Omega's minus ball. It's not just a crazy power creep. He was ascending into a higher being. This is very long to explain, so I recommend you guys checking out my Change Goku video for the full information and behind the scenes interviews of what Asushi Maekawa was portraying in the final episodes for Goku.
Characters like Goten, Trunks, and Pan have little to nothing to contribute to this final fight, barely getting any shine in the story at all, never mind from a dialogue perspective.
They have plenty of dialogue during the final battle. Videl, Chi-Chi, Hercule couldn't exactly do anything in this battle except courageously be there as moral support for their loved ones fighting. Goten, Gohan, Trunks, Oob all gave their strength to help Goku midway through the battle. But I want you to remember what Mark says here about them not being involved, and then he says this.
Trunks and the rest of the kids decide to help anyway, which is a dumb decision and makes all of their lives useless now.
So, initially criticizing they weren't involved, but now they are involved, it's dumb and useless anyway, despite the story purposely portraying everyone wanting to stand together bravely with Vegeta no matter how dark or hopeless it got. Yes, this just felt like another contradiction and hit piece comment.
They are just evil because. They have no reason to be evil, they just are. I don't really like that. They don't have an underlying motivation at all. They refer to themselves as evil, which to me just isn't interesting.
They have no reason to be evil. Of course they do. That's how they were created. They don't need a motivation because they are literally evil and negative energy. The complete opposite of pure good. It's that simple. That's why they are shadow dragons. That's the concept behind them, and they are carrying out their purpose for being created in the first place.
The final villain for this story really felt lifeless for me. Like he had no personality and was a cookie cutter by the books Dragon Ball villain.
He was meant to be lifeless and show no mercy. That's his concept from the way he was created. At this point in the Dragon Ball story, a cookie-cutter classic villain with no complex story is just what it needs after countless villains having in-depth backstories and personalities. The Shadow Dragons were simple. Negative energy makes evil. This is evil.
Additionally, the Shadow Dragon saga, as a concept at least, is probably the most fitting final arc I've ever seen attempted for a show like Dragon Ball that really was never conceived with an ending in mind.
Incorrect. Kozo Morishita, GT's producer, stated that ending was in mind from the moment they began GT.
Super Saiyan 4, despite being a massive fan favorite moment in the show, one even I acknowledged earlier in this video, doesn't feel earned at all to me and ends up being practically the only form Goku uses from that point onward, resulting in us seeing Goku need to go Super Saiyan 4 in order to lift something over his head or to save a town, which honestly to me seems excessive when you consider turning Super Saiyan 3 made the earth shake.
Of course it would be. It was the flagship form, and the 64 episode show didn't milk multiple transformations. It kept with Super Saiyan 4 from the moment Goku got it, to the point even making Full Power Saiyan 4 and Ultra Full Power Saiyan 4 still Super Saiyan 4. That's another reason why Super Saiyan 4 has continued to be respected nearly 30 years later. Not just because of its design, but because of its impact and how the show valued it. To the point it even made Super Saiyan 4 save a city in a superhero sketch to showcase this is your hero, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the cover boy of GT. But to say Super Saiyan 4 was never earned, I've already explained that with Vegeta. This form was necessary for Goku and was a success in that entire arc. He earned it because of his own strength. He earned it because of the struggle against Baby, but Goku kept coming back. He earned it for overcoming his Uzaru state, which he never managed to do previously. He earned it by becoming it. Forms are not handed to other characters, except for Super Saiyan God. They have to be strong enough to be these forms. The moment a warrior can wield Super Saiyan 4 signifies that form belongs with them.
Great design or not, the form has no journey and I genuinely don't care much for it because of that.
The form had journey. Dragon Ball Z episodes 20 and 67 set a foundation. In GT, Baby then beats the Saiyans one by one, Goku twice, which foreshadowed a hopeful power beyond Super Saiyan 3 the moment Goku lost. GT episodes 33 and 34 expanded on the Super Saiyan of Legend. GT episode 55 clarified Super Saiyan 4's past. Super Saiyan 4 had lore foreshadowing.
To show that I'm being completely fair here, I equally don't care at all about Super Saiyan 3. It comes out of nowhere in the story with no build-up and doesn't feel earned.
Except for Goku training hard for 7 years in Otherworld. Seems pretty earned to me.
An understanding of how strong someone actually is relative to another character in the show is very important.
Mark needs to rewatch Dragon Ball Z and definitely Dragon Ball Super for power scale analysis. But this is a common thing throughout Dragon Ball, power creeps exist, and at times, if your guard's down or heart's not in a fight, you worm food.
The action and fights are honestly quite forgettable.
I've spoken to a number of fans, and those who watch GT have not forgotten the fights, and always remember the key moments that happen, which were either the obstacle or how they overcame it.
Krillin, Vegeta, and Piccolo get emotional send-offs in that very episode, providing the majority of the nostalgia from it. Yet their contribution to Dragon Ball GT as a whole was next to nothing.
Piccolo's sacrifice ensured the Earth didn't remain in a constant loop of destruction. If the Earth was wished back, the Earth would instantly explode again because the Black Star balls cannot be placed on the lookout spot just as the Earth got wished back. Krillin's death was the trigger for Android 18 to save Goku in the Super 17 saga, a domino effect of importance, similar to Krillin dying on Namek triggering another positive outcome. Krillin is a support character in GT living his life peacefully. His adventure days are done. He's happy where he is. He didn't need to contribute to anything as a warrior in GT. Tien wasn't even in GT apart from 2 quick scenes. And I much prefer characters not being in it if they aren't going to be useful, rather than including them and ruining their reputation even more, like another series we all know.
Now don't get me wrong, the final episode works exceptionally well, but it does so in spite of Dragon Ball GT and because of Dragon Ball Z. Not because Dragon Ball GT contributed anything to it, they could have quite literally made that episode right after Dragon Ball Z and it could have had the same impact. Which to me begs the question, why does it feel like it only works because of the original Dragon Ball series? And that says a lot about what was actually achieved in Dragon Ball GT, I think.
Dragon Ball GT does not have a great ending in spite of GT and only because of Dragon Ball Z. Sure, the past of Dragon Ball and the characters' histories will always play a factor in how much you love a character down the line. That was the whole point of why GT was made to begin with, to showcase love and passion for Akira Toriyama's creation, and to close the story on this beloved character Goku in a series which is the only one to ever state it being the ending of the Dragon Ball story. Not GT's story, but Dragon Ball and Goku's story. But GT's ending works so well because of GT's overall message in the story. That was the intended episode from the start. An entire journey to get there was done through the misuse of the Dragon Balls, the consequences behind it, and Goku's disappearance with the Dragon Ball so that the world could become a better place and live life without relying on the balls, only through their own strength, ensuring nothing evil happens again in the form of shadow dragons or anything else. Goku leaving was the price to pay for the Dragon Balls. And without GT, this ending would not have worked at the end of Z because it would have had no build-up leading to this particular exit. It needed GT's story and the whole story about consequences of using Dragon Balls. End of Z Goku left with Oob out of his own selfish desire to have a really good fight. GT Goku left because he had to for the balance of the cosmos. If there's any ending to a Dragon Ball series that does well because of Dragon Ball Z and not itself, it's Dragon Ball Super's ending. Goku and Vegeta squaring off in the mountains, in the same poses they had in the Saiyan saga, that ending only worked because of the nostalgia we had for Dragon Ball Z, not for what Super gave us. The original Dragon Ball had a decent ending, which I would put in second place, next to GT's being first. Dragon Ball GT's ending, just like all of its arcs, end well. Some arcs having sloppy starts, but GT always knew how to end its arcs on a high note, and even merge into the next arc nicely. But that's it for my Dragon Ball GT response video to Totally Not Mark's GT review. Overall, I enjoyed Mark's review in places, and I hope you check it out and his channel. This is just one Dragon Ball fan discussing with another, and I hope you learned something today from my knowledge of GT in regards to parts of his review I feel were wrong. GT is not for everyone, we're all different, and that's always been okay. I respect his opinions and I respect your opinions. But if Dragon Ball GT is for you, I hope you enjoyed this video in giving the series the justice it deserves from a lot of misinformation and unnecessary hate towards parts of the story. Some it rightfully deserves, but a lot it doesn't. It may be not a masterpiece, but I love Dragon Ball GT. Until we meet again.